to Ecosystem Builder Show, episode 2. Really appreciate you all following along. Richard, we got some traction. People liked your post, and also got a lot of support over the past week. A lot of great feedback, and so really excited for today. What were you seeing anything online, feedback wise? Am I just in my own echo chamber of Richard and Austin, you're awesome? What's going on?
No, I think folks want more conversation around ecosystem building. So it's great that some of the organizations shared it out, SCN and eShip Alliance and some of the other folks. So love that. But with that said, we have a special guest today. Ashley, will you please tell us who you are, what you do? Welcome to the show.
Hi. My name is Ashley Ray. I manage communications for Startup Champions Network. And I am from Richmond, Virginia. So I'm coming to you from Richmond. Here in Richmond, I am an ecosystem builder and I run communications.
So one thing I realized that we didn't do last time was like give more light of who we are, Richard. And so I do want to maybe give Ashley a little bit of time to maybe kind of tell her ecosystem builder story. I think that's always interesting to hear. How did you get into this work? What was that journey? And how has that changed over time to what you're doing today?
I joined a co-working space called 804 RVA, which was founded by one of the founding members of Startup Champions Network, Larkin Garby. And she sort of brought me into the fold. And I think my first probably ecosystem experience was helping manage the chaos of a startup weekend.
Yep.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
Very familiar.
I did a couple of startup weekends, and then there were other startup events, and more so not just for startups. I've been involved in all kinds of community events here in Richmond that bring together the community and do good things, not just supporting startups, but also small businesses, micro businesses in some cases. So I just have been storytelling and navigating the landscape of events and convening people for a long time, since I've lived in Richmond for 15 years.
Richard, was Startup Weekend a gateway drug, if you will, for you also?
Totally, absolutely, right? Prior to, okay, it's a long story, but long story short, I was involved in entrepreneurship support before I was involved in ecosystem building. And in entrepreneurship support work that I did, we ended up co-organizing startup weekends, which led during COVID to the April 2020, right? Techstars reached out to all the organizers and asked if folks want to get together and do a virtual startup weekend, a countrywide startup weekend. And I answered the call and met so many great people from around the country who were also startup weekend organizers. And some of them were also ecosystem builders or identified as ecosystem builders. And they taught me this vocabulary, gave me the words, and connected me with more folks. And so Startup Weekend really was a gateway into ecosystem building for me as well. What about you, Austin?
Here. Yeah. I got plugged into the local ecosystem through an event called Open Beers, which was a weekly gathering at a random bar. And it was just different founders and entrepreneurship community members just meeting up, totally organized over Twitter. And then by going to those, they introduced me to Startup Weekend. And that's the bug that bit me. And so attended, led organize, facilitated, just booked another facilitation back in Winston-Salem for another startup weekend. But I've always said locally, how important a startup weekend is to the ecosystem, not just for founders, but for ecosystem builders and contributors in the way that engages people. So Ashley, when you said startup weekend, I I'm curious how many ecosystem builders in our network like had a startup weekend entry point for the work they do, at least in our age bracket.
I can tell you, well, a few of the people that I've interviewed over the years in Startup Champions Network have definitely said startup weekend. Like Faye in particular got started with a startup weekend. Like she attended one, and that like kind of got her hooked. So yeah. Also, can we back up to Twitter, like RIP? Remember old school Twitter?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a very different platform now.
Yeah, I'm not on it.
Mm-hmm.
Me neither.
All right. So you said startup weekend, and then that kind of snowballed. So maybe kind of let's fast forward a little bit to what you're doing today. You had mentioned, being part of SCN, and so and that one of the founders of SCN was part of that co-working. So what was that kind of transition into SCN? What does your role with SCN look like, and what does SCN mean to you?
So, my dear friend Larkin, I remember her coming home from like one of the very first Startup Champions Network events, and she was like, I finally understand what I am. That was like the formation of the word ecosystem builder. Before then, it was like, what are we doing? Why do we do this thing that we do? But at some point, she became the interim executive director, and she needed a communications person, and so she pulled me in. And so my first time working on Startup Champions Network Summit was the Denver Summit in like 2018. And so I've just been engaged and active in Startup Champions Network ever since then. What it means to me is a community of people who are thoughtful and care about the world, not just entrepreneurs and startups, but like our communities. And we know that like entrepreneurship is an avenue and that more people should have access to it. And they're doing cool things in their own ecosystems, and they're just real people who are ready to like dig in and do the work. And that's what I love about SCN.
I love that. Richard, I mean, 2018 Denver. Richard, what was your first SCN Summit? I mean, that's going way back.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you too, Austin. Mine was post-COVID, right? So my entrepreneurship ecosystem building journey with those words didn't start until COVID happened and this big startup weekend happened. And I met a bunch of people. Cecilia Wessinger really was the person that brought me in, and she was hosting all these eShip calls. I love Cecilia. And, she gave me this vocabulary and connected me with people. And she's like, you should come to SCN. The first one back from COVID is going to be in Des Moines, Iowa. I go, what is this thing? Maybe not. And at the same time, I had coincidentally been planning and doing a cross-country road trip, because that's what you do after the world kind of opens up a little bit and you have to get out there. And so I, traveled across the country from New York to a bunch of different places. And I was like, oh, Cecilia told me about this thing happening. Maybe I'll check it out. And it happened to align correctly with my road trip. And I drove in and got to Des Moines like 5 a.m. in the morning, slept in my car outside Gravitate Coworks, where it was happening, and went to the event. And I was like, what is this thing? Who are these people? And Ashley, right? Like, I understand what I'm doing now, and I found my people, and that's such a powerful experience. And so I've been to a bunch of other SCN summits and helped organize a couple as well. And so it's been a 5-year long journey for me now. What about you, Austin?
My first one was the DC Policy Summit. That was what, in 23 or 24? And then
spring 23.
Yep. And then most recent one was Augusta. And Ashley, I'm curious, you were at Augusta, you were pretty heavily involved in that event, but also you were at the 2018 in Denver. So how have SCN summits changed over the year, and maybe probably start with a little bit of context of what an SCN summit is.
An SCN Summit is a convening of ecosystem builders. We go to a host member's ecosystem, and it is essentially a live case study. So you meet entrepreneurs, you see the work firsthand, you go on ecosystem adventures, and you hear from the people doing the work about not just their wins, but also their challenges. So it's a very intimate setting. It's focused on peer-to-peer networking and relationship building. So that's what a summit is. I actually wasn't in Denver. I wasn't in Denver and I wasn't in Portland. I just supported communications from Richmond. So my first actual physical summit was in Madison. And the way that they've evolved is there's a few things that have changed over the years, but the meaning and the feeling of being in a summit has stayed the same. So like we used to have dinner with locals like in people's houses.
That's awesome.
Can we bring it back?
Maybe. Stay tuned. So and then COVID killed that. We stopped. It's actually like a huge logistical feat to do that. Because you're only gathering like as many as 10 people in somebody's home. So it's a lot of homes to coordinate, but we did used to do that. But other than that, like every summit has been different because it's uniquely tied to what's going on in the ecosystem and what the ecosystem has to offer. So the core things that we do at SCN have always remained the same. We always do our roses and thorns. We always do dinner with locals. We always do a group picture. Like there are some things that just never change.
And I think, another question is one thing on our docket today, so stay tuned for the whole show, is what events are coming up for the rest of the year. And I think there's a lot of events that happen in the space now. Maybe not, it didn't used to be this way, but nowadays there's a lot of events that ecosystem builders can go to learn different elements to help us support entrepreneurs better, to build community better, to do storytelling better, fundraising, etc. What to you, Ashley, makes an SCN Summit? And Richard, also, I'd be curious your answer. But what makes it different than some of the other events that are out there?
We get out of the building. We go into community. We see entrepreneurs where they are. We hear from the local entrepreneurs. So we're not just in a room talking about theory and best practices. We're digging in and seeing the work firsthand, and we're also sharing information with each other. So it's more about just like how important it is for founders to be in the room with other founders and talk about their challenges and struggles. It's the same for ecosystem builders, and that's what SCN Summits are about.
Yes, and it's magic when you bring people together who care deeply about this work in unstructured settings where they can get out of the building and connect with each other on a deeper level and connect with the community and do this deep dive into where they are and the region that they're in to see what makes it work, what their challenges are, what they can bring home, what they can share. And it's very unlike a traditional conference setting, right? It's kind of like an unconference where you're out there, you're in the community. I love it. And I think SCN has one of the strongest communities of people that always come to SCN summits.
Yeah, you're definitely, go ahead.
I also want to add something that I forgot that's very important. Like we are very intentional about inclusion and belonging, and it's baked into the whole experience. So it starts with intercultural, it starts with very easy getting to know each other, and then we get into intercultural unity where I see you, like we're looking into each other's souls and really building a foundation of trust, and then brings you through to Roses and Thorns, where you're sitting in a circle with a glass of bourbon, talking about what keeps you up at night, and sometimes maybe crying. But that is very intentional. It's not something that can just happen. That experience is woven into the summit.
Yeah, I always tell people that Summit is focusing on the people that do the work, not the work necessarily itself. Like that is a byproduct. Yes, we do get into some tactical, we get into some problem solving, we have conversation around the challenges that are the work, but ultimately really focus on the people that do the work and what's going on in their everyday lives. How are they approaching challenges within their local ecosystem, interpersonal dynamics within the local ecosystem, but also celebrating the wins and being able to celebrate what is happening in your ecosystem and to lift each other up with people that understand the work. And while someone in your community might not see that win in the same way that those that are doing the work understand, like we understand what it means when these events happen or these kind of behind the scene things happen that the entrepreneur will never see almost intentionally, but there's a lot of work on the back end. And so being able to celebrate those wins, talk about the tough times with those that get it, because I think also a lot of times at the local ecosystem level, you in a way can try to shield entrepreneurs from some of the muck of this work because A, they don't care, and B, like that doesn't foster a good environment if they do know some of the hardships that is to create a great space. But at the same time, like I think at the local level, you maybe don't want to vent or problem solve with those locally. And it is helpful to get input from those that are a little bit removed. And the other thing I'll say is like, I love how this community will also challenge you. Like they're removed, so they will challenge you. And you're like, I mean, I don't know. That organization might have a point. Like, have you considered? And just being able to be a really good thought partner while still not having that kind of local ness to it, if you will. So I love the people side. I think it's the biggest differentiator for me of all the events, all the organizations.
I think one of the main differences here is SCN as an organization, to your point, creates this culture of connection so that when we see each other at other events and other places, we already have a connection we can build on, right? So we came together as SCN members at some of the other conferences that were happening earlier this year, like the MBIA conference and the IETC conference. And we already had a group of folks that we knew that we could hang out with, that we can go to dinner with, and have these deeper conversations because we have this built up trust already through the SCN organization.
For sure. Well, not to bury the lead here, we've talked a lot about SCN Summit, but a big part of that is actually you've been involved in so many SCN Summit organizations in your role with SCN, but also as a member and being a part of this. But this year, coming into fall of 2026, you are actually one of our hosts. So can you share a little bit about what you're organizing, what you're working on, and maybe some things you're excited about SCN Summit 2026 Richmond?
I am very excited to bring people to Richmond. SCN has Richmond roots. Like I said, 2 of our founding members are from Richmond. They've done a lot of work building the ecosystem here, and I'm excited to co-host the summit with Debbie Irwin, who is the executive director of Lighthouse. Debbie was also the summit host in the Shenandoah Valley Summit. She was a co-host. So I am excited to bring people to my neighborhood, which is where we will be. We're going to be in historic Jackson Ward, which is where I live and where I do community work deeply in. And so I'm excited to share the stories of the small business owners here who have been convening and digging in and trying to make downtown better, a better place for people to come. I'm excited to tell the Lighthouse Network stories. Obviously, Debbie will tell that one, but the story of how Lighthouse came to be and what sets it apart, their focus on founder health and founder wellness. I'm excited to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly, and show you all of the coolness that Richmond is. Like, we are so, Richmonders love Richmond. Like, they are fiercely loyal to everything Richmond has to do, and all of the cool things that happen here, all of the art, the culture, the experiences, they happen because they're very passionate community members here in Richmond, who just want to celebrate their city. So Richmond is a small town. I mean, it's a capital city, but we're a small town.
Yeah.
So
let's dig deeper, right? Tell us what you love about Richmond. Brag about your city. Tell us all about it.
What do I love about Richmond? Everything.
Yeah.
Like I said, that we have a huge arts community. We have murals everywhere. People just do cool shit here. Like, there's always something cool going on. We have a gazillion festivals that were started by Richmonders. Like, we have an awesome music scene. And then our startup scene is, we have some very big startups who started and stayed here. We have some very big companies that started and stayed here. CarMax, that's a Richmond company.
I did not know that. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Genworth, also a Richmond company. We also have like Capital One, Capital One is, the man, but they really dig into the community and support. They are in here, giving grants and supporting community efforts. And then, like, my neighborhood, historic Jackson Ward, is a historic Black Wall Street. This used to be a vibrant Black neighborhood with all kinds of Black businesses, and there's a very storied history here. But the history is beautiful, and when you come to Jackson Ward, you'll see a monument of Maggie Walker, who was the first woman to own a bank, like full first woman to own a bank in America. And so the community building, the love for community building is deep in Richmond. We also have these like gorgeous murals called Mending Walls. And they started during 2020 when our muralists were like, we need to have conversations with each other. And so they choose a wall, they pull two people from the community to have a conversation. They record that conversation, and then they build a powerful mural to tell the story. So it's like stuff like that in Richmond that is just, you just don't find that everywhere.
I think one thing I'm really excited about is when SCN moves to all these cities, it's different city types. And I think I'm really excited to see like Richmond, where you said it's like, yeah, you're a capital city, but still a small town. And so I think when we're talking about ecosystem building, a lot of times what happens is, if you're within your own ecosystem, you're always wondering, well, what are other ecosystems my size, like how are they handling this? And so I'm excited for like the Richmond perspective for that size city. And also I'm curious to see like the size city and how it being a capital city plays into the ecosystem. Like, does it give you more access to policy or less? Like, is that even a factor? But then you also mentioned like, well, there's so many other elements of your city, such as arts. And it's like, well, what about our creative entrepreneurs? And so I'm really excited about what you all have planned, just looking at your agenda and the elements. And we previewed it on last episode, but the punk rock banking segment,
Yes.
do you want
to hear about punk rock banking?
Yes.
Like,
tell us.
What does it mean? I was like, I don't even know how to explain this. We're gonna have to have them on to tell us.
joining a credit union is the most punk rock thing you could do right now. Punk rock
Tell us
is
why.
anti-man. We are not. Damn the man. Okay. When you give your money to a bank, they use your deposits to do evil shit, like drill for oil or destroy communities. They don't care. They feed this. Their whole point is to give money to shareholders. When you are
Ooh, well done.
sorry, when you are a member of a credit union, all of your deposits get redeployed into the community. What is more punk rock than that?
Mm,
And so you're going to hear from People's Advantage Federal Credit Union, who coined the term punk rock banking and has a whole campaign around it. And they're doing some really cool, innovative things. They're opening up opportunities for small businesses. They are on the ground being community builders. They have a mobile branch. It is a RV that's converted into a bank, and
that's
they
Cool.
take it. Yeah, they take it to communities that banks have left. So banking deserts, if you will. So they're rolling into communities that don't have any banks. They're parking in old Wells Fargo parking lots, and they're serving the community and giving them an opportunity to get that loan or open a checking account, even if they have a storied past. So that is punk rock banking.
That's awesome.
I love that. I love that so much.
Will they be in punk rock attire while presenting?
They won't, but we have really fun stickers.
Can we be in punk rock attire while they
Yes,
present?
you can.
Okay. What is your favorite punk rock band?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I'm a Green Day girl. Like, I was born and raised on Green. I mean, Green Day came out when I was coming up in the world. So
Yes,
Green
yes.
Day.
This was our quick lightning round, so thank you for playing along.
Um,
Actually, Richard, yeah. Any other questions from you?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe a comment, maybe a question, right? What I'm really excited about for Richmond Summit, totally going to be there, and we should all go. Everyone's who's watching, like, needs to go and get a ticket right now, so we can make this happen. Austin, will you just throw the link in the chat?
Oh, I
The
got it.
What I'm really excited about hearing this conversation is because Richmond is a capital city, there's so many parallels to the capital region in New York, to Albany, Troy, Schenectady, the areas around here, and the ecosystem that I work in. And I really want to bring down a contingent of folks, a group of capital region folks who are involved in the ecosystem to explore Richmond and learn from Richmond and share what we're doing with Richmond and bring some of the stuff back home to the capital region, right? Very similar in kind of capital city status and population in the metro area. I think Richmond has 1.3, 1.4 million, and the capital region has 1.1 and change, right? So very similar things happening up here and down there.
We do have. I didn't. You mentioned this earlier, Austin, and I didn't touch on it, but we do have access to politicians here in Richmond. We have good conversations with them and good relationships with them. But I want to brag on our mayor for a little bit, for 1 second. Our mayor is awesome. Mayor Danny Avula. He's a doctor. He just allowed us to. A small group of us created this initiative called Hack for RVA, which was a civic hackathon that our mayor was fully participated in. And people came together. They built solutions like specifically to solve the city's biggest problems. So the mayor was like, these are my 7 pillars. These are my issues. Build a solution for them. And they did. They spent a weekend, and we had so many solutions. 7 of them won prizes. And the city is actually implementing at least one of them into their technology stack now. Maybe more. They're still trying to figure that out. But our mayor is super supportive of Richmond and is just as passionate as everyone else, which is cool. And hopefully we can get him to the summit for at least one day.
There we go.
Amazing. It's so fun, right? I think get him to come do a proclamation or something to really yeah. But Austin, you go.
I was just gonna say Startup Champions Day of Richmond, at least. At
yes.
Or Ecosystem Builders Day. I mean, let's spotlight the work, right? One question we like to ask each other, and that we talked about asking all of our guests, is just kind of to come back to the root of the name of the show. But what is an ecosystem builder to you, and what does ecosystem building mean?
To me, an ecosystem builder is a community builder with a different name. Obviously, we support entrepreneurs and we believe in access to opportunity for entrepreneurship. But an ecosystem builder is that person connecting entrepreneurs, supporting entrepreneurs, but also like raising their whole city up. That's what it means to me.
And one thing that you mentioned, and this will be my last question. Now you probably have to hop soon. I appreciate your time. But one thing you mentioned about Richmond is, entrepreneurs beyond your traditional high tech, high velocity venture backable, like really pouring into who's in your community. I'm curious, when you think about ecosystem building, how do you define entrepreneur or startups, or what is your kind of perspective of those that you serve?
You are a business owner.
Right.
You are not just a startup. You put risk out there, and risk can mean different things to different people, but you own a business. Like for me, it's just as important for us to support our small businesses as it is to support our startups, because small businesses are a lot of times the ones doing the work. Like when we had a freeze in Richmond and all of the streets were frozen, guess who was out there shoveling ice off of the sidewalks? It was the small businesses on Broad Street. Like, guess who is convening and meeting with police and meeting with the city and doing all of these things to make downtown better? It is the business owners. It's the Arts District Business Alliance. So to me, it's just as important to support those people who are often left out of the picture as it is to support startups.
Completely agree, right? We have so much of both in our ecosystem, and I agree, it's just as important to support small business owners as it is to support scalable startups. And you need all different people and businesses and pieces of the puzzle to make a place in the community a great place to not just work, but also live and play and learn and all of the above.
Yeah, I've this is a question that comes up often, especially as like we're looking at local events like a startup week, and who's the primary audience, and what does like marketing and what do sessions look like. And so I'm always curious to ask other ecosystem builders like how they define their audience and why. And so I appreciate your answer there. I've seen the model where it's like concentric circles, where you have like the broader like society, and then from there you have business, and then from there you have like your entrepreneurs. So your entrepreneurs are going to be more of like the founders and like your kind of owners, senior management, versus those within the business, right? And then from there you have your startup community, and that's going to be more of your new companies. But depending on the geography in the region, it could just be anyone who's recently started. And then I actually have on a wall in my office like an exercise we are doing locally of, well, what is a startup, and when does a startup stop being a startup? And it's just a really interesting dialogue. So I appreciate your perspective. And I'm curious to see what the answers are over time as we have other guests. Richard, any last questions or things for Ashley, or Ashley, any things from you?
Yeah, throw it to you, Ashley. Close us out for your segment here. Thank you for coming. What do you got for us?
Come to Richmond.
Yes.
Come see what we're all about. Have fun. Get the SCN experience, and get the Richmond experience.
I love it. And I'm bringing my studded belt and black nail polish and guy liner, and we're going to be there. So it's going to be great. Appreciate you being on.
Right.
Appreciate you investing in your community and for all you do for SCN. So thank you.
We'll see you in Richmond.
Well done. Well done with the sound effects.
Thanks. It's hard because I can't hear them. So I have to.
Well, you're doing great.
Thanks.
Well, that's awesome. I'm really excited about Richmond. And one thing, when they were first presenting the concept of the event, just the intentionality that they put. But as they were going through it, and I think even hearing Ashley today, like, it is very showcasing their local community. It wasn't a ecosystem building conference walkthrough where you're hearing tactical things, but it's like, I don't think what they are presenting could be duplicated in any other city because it is so Richmond. And so I'm really excited about that unique perspective, but also like the fun twist on events and titles that they're putting on this event.
And I think Ashley and Debbie are the perfect people to host and run a summit, and this will feel very core SCN, and this will be such a great time, right? So, I mean, come to Richmond. I'll be there. It'll be fun.
And I feel like at this point we are becoming an SCN advertisement. So let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room that this is not just for SCN members. You don't have to be an SCN member. We have no expectation of you becoming an SCN member, but it is near and dear to our hearts and the value that it brings to our lives and the community it brings. And so some of this has been quite the overflow of our appreciation of that community, and also our excitement for the events where we can be together again and convene. So if you want to become an SCN member, no. I'll put the link.
Start people. Great. No, I love it.
All right, Richard, bring us back to the show. What are we talking about the rest of the show? What are we diving into? What's the next thing?
Yeah, let's hit us with a week in review, Austin. Anything fun you had going on? Any cool events? Any cool projects? Any cool conversations?
I think ecosystem related. One of my favorite things is, I may have mentioned it on the last episode, but there's a group of entrepreneurs and ecosystem builders that live within walking distance of my house. And so we're just getting together a lot more frequently. And that's been fun, just to do life with others in the community, within the ecosystem, but also to, like, at any point we can dive into one of the founders' businesses or challenges, or like we have a group text where like we're celebrating one of the founders that just crossed a big milestone, and being able to celebrate that, and just like the everyday stuff that is entrepreneurship and community, and being able to have like a close-knit group to support each other, but just to hang out, so it feels a little less lonely. So I'd say over the past week, that's been one of my favorites. We met up at a local pub house and threw back some apps and beers and played some games and just did life. That was definitely one of my favorites. And then walking the dog and stopping by one of their houses and just all right, like what's the business challenge that they're facing, and how did you handle that? And just being able to kind of have that localness. And that's part of like what Ashley said is like tight knit communities with a density just to be able to bump into people. So I would say that's probably one of my favorite things over the past week. Other thing, I went to a newer, not totally new, space across the river in Indiana. So it's an innovation park. And just to see like, okay, how does a city that's outside of a main metro area, it's about 15-20 minute drive, like, but how are they still driving innovation? What does that look like? Unbeknownst to me, there's a company there that's putting things into space, with
Cool.
contracts with SpaceX and NASA, and I guess they handled the creation of some human tissue that went into a famous football player's leg, because in low gravity, in space, they're able to construct this, and that's a company within 20 minutes of our city. And it's like, how much innovation is happening that's not in where your ecosystem density is. So it's just really cool to see that. Look, a friend of mine that's a founder, he has his office over there, and he had a lot of pride just to bring people out and show that space. And so I'm really excited to go back, and also to see how that space grows as they add more startups there, as they add more buildings, and just to see what innovation looks like in southern Indiana.
Very cool. I'm a space nerd. I love space. It's so fun.
Max Q.
Yeah, right, Max Q. I'm sure we'll talk about that soon enough. But on the topic of cool things happening in our regions that no one talks about, or that need more storytelling, I'm a big proponent of we need more storytelling. And that's why we do this, right? That's why we have these conversations and share and maybe inspire some other people to do cool things. Um, there's a company nearby that is building a US supply chain for actuators, like humanoid robotics joints, which are all on actuators to move the robots around. And currently, it is all made overseas, and we don't have a good US supply chain for that. And they're doing it in upstate New York, specifically like on a farm in upstate New York in a big warehouse. It's great.
It's fascinating. We had a very similar conversation when I was at this innovation park, which was like, did you ever think high tech startups would come out of like where we're sitting, where we are literally between two barns and an old mill house, like two dilapidating barns and an old mill house, and it's like, and in this building we're sending innovation to space, and in this building we are completely changing an entire industry that is how pilots are trained. And he was like, would you believe that this would be happening between barns? And like you were talking, upstate New York, like at a farm, and it's like we're creating actuators for robots. So you never know where innovation is going to happen, which I think is really encouraging to ecosystem builders everywhere.
It really is, right? And I was just on a call earlier today with someone, a founder from San Francisco, from the Bay Area. They have so many things happening. There's events every night, there's founders, there's money, like biggest ecosystem in the world. And we're just talking about all the other places that innovation happens, that entrepreneurship happens, that business and small business happens around the country, around the world, and how you know, all these other places have really smart, really talented people who are doing really cool things. And we just never hear about them, and we need to talk more about them. Uh, yeah, so that's that. But on your group that you hung out with, um, of all your founders and your ecosystem folks, it just reminds me of 1 Million Cups,
Hmm.
which, we are growing and rebuilding and doing really cool things with in the capital region. And I just love those folks and hanging out with them every Wednesday morning. Uh, we just built a really great community where it's midweek recharges me and everyone else who goes. So really the importance of having people around who are doing things um, so that you're not doing it alone, right? Can't overemphasize that.
And I think, I don't want to diminish the process that is organizing a 1 million cups, because it's a lot. But at the same time, like, because there is a playbook for it. Um, the part of the goal is, how do you start making ecosystem events as low lift as possible, so that way you can a be more present. It's not a burden to gather other ecosystem members, and I think that's one of the things I love about this, like, group, is like, there is no organization other than sending a text like, hey, heading up to, Monic, or hey,
Hmm.
um like, over the weekend was like, it was a long Memorial Day weekend, but one of them was like, hey, I need to get some stuff done. Anyone want to hop up to the coffee shop and co-work, right?
Yep.
And so it's this, like, low friction, low effort um, ecosystem engagement opportunities that I think are really powerful. And so I see it on our show notes that we're actually going to talk about some upcoming events. And so on that note, I'm going to jump the train here a little bit, but related to low friction events, we have an event next week called Founder Beers, and that was organized by a local startup founder who just wanted to hang out with other founders.
Yep.
But he's like, I need it to be as low lift as possible because I'm building a company. I don't have time to organize and, like, spin up websites and event pages and this. Like, I need this as easy as possible. So I'd say for about 5 years, he had a calendar event, just a Google calendar event on his calendar called Founder Beers, and it was set to a monthly recurring. And if you wanted to go to Founder Beers, he would add you as an invite. And then every month he'd change the location. So all he had to do every month for this event was update the location for the next month. That was it. It was like as low lift as possible, and it really grew into a great community. Now, it's since moved to Luma, um, but still same, like, mantra, which is like, gather founders so they can be in community, but keep it as low lift as possible. So that's my upcoming. Richard, what was your past week? What do you have upcoming?
Yeah, let me hit it with the upcoming first along the same lines, right? How do we make it low lift, high impact, bring people together? Kind of like this show, right? Low lift. Get to hang out, maybe high impact, fun things. Gives us an excuse to hang out every week. Um, we're right after the show, we're doing a happy hour. That is super low lift. It's like next door at the bar. And um, it started off as a local founder with the company, wanted to get people together, just threw something out there, 518 Founders Happy Hour. Um, and then it got picked up kind of by, we were talking about this past Wednesday. We have a venture, so I'll go on a tangent here. We have a venture readiness program that our Center for Economic Growth, one of our kind of economic development and entrepreneurship support and ecosystem organizations in the area um, puts on. And this venture readiness program helps founders with scalable companies who are looking to raise, get investment ready, right? And so um, they invited me and I just joined as a EIR for the program. And on
That's
our
awesome.
Wednesday, thank
Congrats.
you, thank you. On our Wednesday call, we talked about just getting people together, getting all the venture readiness folks together, all the community folks together, and just doing a happy hour. And so I just made a flyer while we were on the call, sent it out to a bunch of people, and hopefully people show up in an hour next door and hang out. but it's like stuff like that happens, right?
And I think like with these events, like there is an element of clarity, right? Like if you can at least be clear on who else is going to be there, so people know, oh yeah, this is people like me, or what it's going to be, if it is going to be a mix, or why. Like I think just having that at least one piece of like continuous clarity around the event will help people show up, and I think that's enough, especially for these low impact or low effort high impact events. And never underestimate what can happen at a happy hour or bevs or whatever.
That's right.
Because like I said, it's part of the reason I'm here, right? Like open beer, conversations that lead to the next, So curious to see how it goes on next week's episode.
Yeah, thanks. It'll be fun, super fun. What else do I have coming up, happening in the past? We had our Capital Region Business Hall of Fame event last night. Very well attended. I think it was 500 plus on the guest list.
Nice.
Inducted several local business owners to the Business Hall of Fame. And CEG does this in partnership with Junior Achievement, also as a fundraiser for Junior Achievement.
Very cool.
To help them run their programs, right? So the community came out and supported, and it was such a cool event to be at yesterday.
Were you inducted?
No.
Next year?
No. I have to do more and, have more.
I believe in you.
Coming up next week. So this week is Boston Tech Week. I was hoping to get out there. I did not. Next week is New York Tech Week. And I'm hoping to coordinate either a car pool or train ride for Capital Region founders to go down to New York Tech Week and just get them in the room with all these other people in New York City who are building things, who are creating, who are investing, because showing up is half the battle, right? When people ask for advice, I'm like, just show up to wherever you want to be and get to the event, and just being in the room is half the battle. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, I might be down in New York City for New York Tech Week. So I have to coordinate that coming up shortly here.
And don't underestimate the power of some windshield time. I think that can be some powerful moments with others in your community, just to make that drive together. I have some fond memories of riding with other founders to an event. On the way there, it's a lot more like business and life, but on the way back, it's a lot more reflection of the event. So I think even just riding together is a very underutilized, underestimated ecosystem activity that can have impact also.
Yeah. Founder road trips. Maybe we should do founder road trips. I did startup bus once upon a time. We should do startup bus. So
Man,
fun.
I haven't heard of startup bus mentioned in a while. All right. Next on the docket, any other thing as far as last week, this week, next week in your world?
I don't think so. I think I covered most of it. If something comes up, I'll talk about it.
Awesome. All right. You want to dive into news and spotlights?
Yeah. Do you have anything fun going on in Louisville or any other ecosystem things you want to talk about?
Good question. So you had mentioned it earlier about the new book release. I feel like maybe tell our listeners a little bit more about the upcoming book release that includes a lot of our friends and tips.
Totally. Our very good friend Annika Horn who has been an ecosystem builder forever and has a podcast, is releasing a book. And it has stories from a lot of different ecosystem builders from around the country, around the world. It's called It Takes a Valley. And, the theme is, how do we build thriving entrepreneurial ecosystems that transform our communities? And I'm sure we'll have Annika on here to tell us more about it one of these days. But we're all rallying around this, as a community, sharing it. I think it's up on Kickstarter to kind of
Yeah,
fund the
I'm
production of
sure.
it. And so Annika is amazing, and all the stories that will be in this book will be told. I'm really excited to see it.
All right, let's get this link here in the chat. And there we go. So check that out. We linked it here. So it looks like we've got about 21 days left of the Kickstarter. But it's been really, I've really enjoyed seeing the promotion. I think in their social strategy, they're including a lot of quotes from some of the stories mentioned. And, I've read many ecosystem books. And one thing I'm really excited about from this one is all the stories that Annika has brought it all together. But to hear multiple ecosystem stories is something I'm looking forward to on this project. Any other updates? I know Paulo just wrapped his Kickstarter for Kohado. So congrats, Paulo, on wrapping that fundraiser. Other news. The 250 challenge for America the Entrepreneurial. I don't know if you want to share some of that since you're Right to Start ambassador, the most recent activation, if you will. If not, I can
Yeah,
chat
totally.
on it.
No, absolutely. Right to Start. I'll start with, what Right to Start is, right? Right to Start is a national nonprofit that breaks down barriers for entrepreneurs everywhere. We champion entrepreneurship as a civic priority and work within all different communities around the country and connect with elected officials to kind of drive this change. And right now, as part of the America the Entrepreneurial campaign to renew the American promise of this startup nation, this country that 250 years ago tried this thing called freedom, uh, we want to renew the promise that anyone can have an American dream. And if you work hard, you should have the ability to start a business and grow a business and support yourself and your family. And so, as part of this America the Entrepreneurial campaign, there is a governor's compact on entrepreneurship that we're urging all 50 governors to sign and be a part of. And there's a change.org petition to kind of encourage folks in state government to take note of the issue, take note of the compact, and sign on to it. And so we're collecting signatures from anyone around the country who wants to support entrepreneurship, which should be everyone.
And as of our live recording, we're at 216 out of the 250. So on our way, well on our way.
Cool.
Any other news, upcoming spotlights?
Yeah, let me throw it back to books, right? Annika's coming out with a book. Our friend Ben McDougall just released his book as well. And Ben's a ecosystem builder from Des Moines. And he was, for a very long time, founder, ecosystem builder, entrepreneurship support person. He was the Midwest regional rep for 1 Million Cups for a long time. So that's how I know him. And he couple years ago released a book called You Don't Need This Book, Entrepreneurship in the Connected Era. And it has short stories and kind of impactful narrative around entrepreneurship. And then he just came out with Brewed from Within, with 20 plus contributing authors in these like 125 riffs, short stories, short articles, notes about entrepreneurship. And so that's out now too. And so another great book for entrepreneurship, for the ecosystem.
Awesome. And I just dropped a link to that. So give that a check out. I love these micro stories, and I love the growing emphasis on storytelling.
Mhm.
One of my favorite podcasts is How I Built This. And so just to hear how these companies that have become named house, what's the word? House brands.
Household
like-
names.
Yes,
Household
thank you.
names.
Friday at 4 hit me. But
Yeah.
these brands that we all know, but how did they get started? And so I think it was this past week, I listened to the episode on how NVIDIA got started, which was a fascinating story. Unbeknownst to me, he has ties to Kentucky. Who would have thought? He went to basically a boarding school here in a small town in Kentucky. So I'm like, can we utilize that to get some reinvestment into Kentucky? That wouldn't suck. To have some more NVIDIA investment locally. But yeah, just hearing
Cool.
these stories of startups and how they were started and the trials and tribulations and what it took to get to where they are today, and with them being common brands, listening to episodes like Siete Foods, which we love, like we love their chips, their tortillas, and how did they get to start, and why Siete, and so I love the storytelling. Honestly, doing this show has got me even more excited to like, what would a local show look like that's doing more local storytelling of our ecosystem and interviewing founders and things like that. So that's
Yeah. NVIDIA. So everyone knows Jensen, right? One of the other co-founders that not a lot of people talk about, Curtis Preem, was also a co-founder of NVIDIA, and he went to RPI, like the school I went to, and he has donated a lot of money to the school and to different causes. And many years ago, we built a performing arts building, like a big theater and concert hall, and named it after him. So we have a Curtis Preem Experimental. What does MPAC stand for? Experimental Media and Performing Arts Center.
nice.
So that's super cool. On the topic of storytelling and like local stuff, I had a conversation this past week with some folks who run a fellowship program for college students, and very interesting program. It's been going on for a couple of years, and they take students from all across New York State and put them in groups of 2 or 3 and assign them to partner companies. And instead of a traditional internship where the student does whatever the company, says, or like goes and does a job shadow or anything like that, the company comes up with a project, a nice to have, not a need to have, right? It would be nice if XYZ, and hands over that directive and that project to this group of students. Some of the best, college students selected from the state for this program. And they have 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is, to do that project and report back along the way and come out with like a final report and presentation and have a conclusion to this. And so one way I was thinking of utilizing this program to do more storytelling around entrepreneurship is this fall, when they have the next cohort of fellow students, will go and be a partner organization or project, and the directive to these students, this team of students that we get is tell entrepreneurship stories in the capital region, right? Share the cool things that are going on and just leave it at that. It can take whatever form that they want to take it in whatever direction they want to take it, utilizing skills they have or they want to develop or build. And so it can be long form video or short form TikToks or interviews or articles or blogs or journalism and news reporting, or they can create the lineup for our Global Entrepreneurship Week in November and get all the partners to do things. So, however they want to take this and grow entrepreneurship and celebrate entrepreneurship in the capital region will be their project. And I think that's a pretty cool thing.
That's awesome. I've always been curious, like, how do we better utilize and tap into students to both get them plugged into what we're doing as an ecosystem, but also to get them real world projects. And so, in a similar vein, I've always wondered, like, what would it look like if you got the film students to do like documentaries, if you will, on either like accelerator programs where they're following all the member companies from like um, from application to selection to the 10 weeks to the demo day to the after action, like, because it does two things. A, for the filmmakers, they are having to find the story without knowing how it's going to turn out, and I think that's always like an important skill, is like, you might think the story's going one way but realize it took a different, and so how do you pivot? But I think there's just a lot of skills from the creative perspective that you could do with that. But then it also provides both a spotlight and a level of accountability for the programs, to, at the end of the day, there's going to be a documentary that comes out, like, how do you make this the best program? But then double down on that, now you have a documentary to help you storytell and fundraise and promote the program in the future. So I feel like that can be like a win-win, um, with your film students, with your, even your English majors, so like the storytelling and the writing and your graphic design. Like, how do we get students more involved in the ecosystem and what's happening?
I love it, right? I want more of those documentaries. I want to figure out how to fund those. That's exciting. Can we do to celebrate 250, right? Like 250 stories of entrepreneurs around the country doing cool things in a documentary format. Cost time and resources, but like it's doable.
I feel like from an execution, like, we can rally up like a prize, but then like your only costs are going to be promotion and hosting, for like submissions. But most of the costs would be in marketing and then the prize. So I feel like as far as the lift is only in distribution, really. And then you get, an all-star panel to review and select a winner. But then you can showcase them on YouTube or on a website of all the stories and maybe categorize them. I don't know. Should we do that?
Um, yes, and maybe, and right to start is doing that. Did that? I don't know when the deadline was. I think it was end of
That
April, but they had a storytelling contest.
yeah,
That
that one was more entrepreneur focused.
totally.
I don't know.
Right, you heard about that.
Yes, I looked into it and realized my role would be more in the nominating than the story itself. So
Yeah, a
maybe
cool
next
thing we
time.
did. A cool thing we did as a activation in New York State was we went to the finals for the New York State Business Plan competition, which is a collegiate level intercollegiate competition, and we set up a studio and recorded founders, both student and non-student founders, stories to submit to that competition. And I cut together a combined video of all of it.
That's cool.
That may get posted one of these days. That was really cool. We got to do those stories and hear from students and non-students and startup founders, entrepreneurs about what they're doing.
Any standout stories?
Any standout stories? All of them. They're all my favorite children. I cannot. They are all amazing.
That's fine. Well, let us know when it releases. We'll drop it here in the show and send some traffic that way.
Cool. It reminds me of another video that I did, but not from the production side. I was invited to be a guest. I was interviewed for a video that showcased the capital region and why it's a great place to live, work, and play. And it wasn't just entrepreneurship or business focus. It was professionals from all different backgrounds. And we recorded that many moons ago, but it's coming out soon as well to showcase a region. And that's another way regions can tell their story, right? I think that's really cool. So I was happy to participate in that.
I think Eric and Grace, their series from the Augusta Summit is about to release or just released. I saw a few stories coming out from that.
They're trickling out the interviews that they did. And yeah, so you can find that probably on their YouTube, right? Will you link their Make Startups YouTube? And we'll have them on as guests.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me see if I can find that link. All right. Next up on the docket.
Do you want to do lightning round?
Some of the videos are up and the titles are provocative.
Oh, no. I love it. Send it through.
There you go. Yeah, these are great. I'm excited for them. Do you want to do lightning round and then upcoming events?
Upcoming events, then lightning round. We talked about a bunch of events. SCN Summit in Richmond.
Yep. It's a busy fall. We kind of previewed that at the top, but got a lot of events coming up. So you got Startup Champion Summit in September, end of September. And then shortly after that, just 2 or 3 weeks later, is MBIA eBuilders in Detroit. And they're actually partnering with Entrepreneurship Funders Network. So they're doing a doubled up event. We're seeing a lot of these doubled up events, which I think makes sense for everyone, because it's less time, less resources, and you can double up and make the most. I'm excited to see that happening more, and hopefully it continues. And then IEDC has their conference in New Orleans, October 25th through 28th. So that's going to be a quick back-to-back from eBuilders to IEDC. And then Elevate will follow IEDC. So that's kind of one full week from October 25th through the 31st. So first part of the week, if you're in economic development, second part of the week would be more on that ecosystem builder entrepreneurship side of things. So those are just 3 things. If there's an event you know about that we're not talking about, let us know in the comments. But yeah, are you going to any of these outside of SCN?
I'm hoping to go to all of them. And I am looking up the driving distance for a road trip because it's fun, but it's like 15 hours. And so I am hoping to go to all of them, as many as I can make. What about you?
I would say definitely SCN Summit. The other 2 are same time as some other conferences I typically go to. The fall is just always packed for conference season. and then a month after all of these, you have Global Entrepreneurship Week. So probably a lot going on across ecosystems everywhere. So it's going to be a packed fall, but looking forward to it. Excited for SCN Summit in Richmond, and yeah, a lot of events. So, all right,
Yeah,
that's it. Lightning round.
Not yet. Real quick. Next
Oh.
week after, is the spring, like demo day cycle for Techstars, right? So they've done their spring program. All their founders in their various spring programs are doing their demo days next week and the week after. And so if anyone's interested in going to any of those, you can find that on the Techstars website and find the specific program where they're hosting it. But it is the first and second week of June, and then they'll do December for their fall winter program. So
Awesome.
That's coming up too. Lightning round.
All right.
I'm really excited. I wrote these questions. I'm very excited. I'm gonna ask you the first one.
Okay. I'm not gonna look, so that way it's a surprise.
Oh, good. What TV show are you currently watching?
I just wrapped La Brea on Netflix. I am in the middle. La Brea is kind of like a time traveling show.
I love time travel. Okay.
So that's been really fun. And then For All Mankind on Apple TV.
Yes, that's mine.
Loving that.
Going through season 5.
And season 5 came out so much later that I felt like I forgot so much. And they're doing some callbacks that I'm like, wait a second, what? But also some of the aging of Ed. When they aged Ed, and then like his audio wasn't matching up with his mouth movement, I was like, come on, Apple.
Right, no spoilers.
But yeah, those would be my 2 shows. How about you?
I love For All Mankind, so I'm doing that. I don't have time for a ton of other ones, but that's my primary one.
Nice. Citadel just came back out on Prime.
Cool.
So I started watching episode 1 of that. And then not a show, but I've fallen asleep 3 or 4 times because dad life for the new Jack Ryan movie. So trying to get through that. We're like halfway through at this point. But
I like Jack Ryan. I gotta put that on my list again as well. In addition, cool. Next up, podcast recommendations. What are you listening to?
Ecosystem specific or not?
Anything.
Okay. Let's start ecosystem specific first. I really, and now the episodes aren't as like coming out as new and often, but when Chris Hively was releasing episodes on, let me pull it up just to make sure I'm sharing the right name, but yeah, I would say Chris Hively's podcast with some of the guys from Techstars. They were releasing pretty consistently, and then I feel like Chris just started back again. And then where is it? I'll have to find the name here in a second. But honestly, I've been listening to a lot more non-ecosystem podcasts, mainly around AI. So A16Z has, which is an investment group, they have the AI A16Z AI. So I've been listening to that. Sometimes it can get technical. Also listening to Access podcast. So former editor at The Verge, and that is now doing startup specific interviews. He's met with, or he's interviewed everyone from like Substack CEO to Notion to some of the newer ones. Like they just had on there Poke and Pulsia. And I think Pulsia is like one of those wild startups where they're like a week launch, but 30 million raised, and just an interesting company. But Access Podcast would definitely be a new podcast that I would recommend. I enjoy because it's very like, I don't know, real. Like they don't hold back on kind of their questions, but you also hear them talking about the latest news. So let's start there. I have a bunch of marketing podcasts, but I don't know if that's this audience.
Yeah. Cool. I had to do some driving recently, so I threw on, episodes from Annika's Ecosystems for
Yes.
Change podcast and Aaron Taylor's Ecosystem Scale. I listened back to the Technically Live podcast recording they did as for their keynote. They recorded an episode during their keynote at the
Very cool.
Technically Builders Conference, which was cool. And they have a whole podcast too. And so some of that stuff. Yeah. For me, it's just all.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it kind of related to that. YC has a great podcast also that I've enjoyed.
Yep. And then the longer form kind of talk showy type tech things that Linus Tech Tip does, and Waveform from Marquez Brownlee. All those tech things,
Waveform for sure. When I was in North Carolina, they put together a great podcast called Ecosysteming. So ecosystem, ing, but interviewing ecosystem community members across the state, and so that was, I enjoyed that from a local in North Carolina. We had something similar to that in Kentucky, the Middle Tech podcast, but also in North Carolina we had NC Tweener talks. It used to be the Triangle Tweener Fund, where they would interview founders, but for those that have gotten into OpenClaw, they had a whole they've done a series on it. So they've so far done 3 different rounds on it as part of that podcast of how companies and individuals can use a tool like OpenClaw. So I'm really enjoying like the localized level podcasts. Because if I listen to the A16Z show or AI plus A16Z, some of that can feel a little far-reaching, or for someone else, but maybe not me. Whereas the local podcast is like familiar names and like the local perspective, and things like that.
Cool. Okay, let's make these next lightning round questions actually lightning round, because we went very long. All right, favorite celebration food, Austin?
Ice cream.
Ice cream, that's a good one. I do like all you can eat sushi or all you can eat Korean barbecue. So good.
Yes.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Always coffee.
What's your coffee order?
Pour over black, single origin, typically an Ethiopian.
Fancy. Do you have a fancy espresso machine? Fancy.
So funny enough, I'm actually not a espresso snob. I'm more of a pour over snob.
Okay.
But I'm trying to keep this to lightning. Black and white coffee roasters specifically.
Coffee for me, light and sweet. I gotta get sugary and lots of cream or milk. Early bird or night
what do you
owl?
think about Cuban coffee? Have you had like a Cuban coffee?
I don't know. Not that much
All
of
right.
a coffee snob.
Come to Louisville. We'll get Cuban coffee.
All right, cool. Early bird or night owl?
Ooh. This has changed as life has changed. I'd say right now I'm a mid. I would say a a morning, like a late morning person. For the longest time, I would have said night owl. Then I shifted to an early bird. And now being a new dad, I'm in my prime from like 9 to 11. Like I can get a lot done once I've dropped her off at daycare, go through 11, honestly, even up to lunch. But then, so I guess 9 to 12, sometimes 9 to 2, because sometimes lunch happens at 2.
Yeah, that's
How about you?
right? Similar. Used to be up late all the time, but as I get older, I've been sleeping earlier, which is great, but by practicality, waking up much earlier. Like I was up at 6 this morning, went to the gym, then started my day with like a 9 o'clock meeting, 10 o'clock, whatever, right? So I have a lot of morning things now. And so it's easier for me to go to bed early and wake up early. Whatever, fine, works for me.
Sweet. I've been trying to figure out like my heads down me time for the morning block, and then like
Yeah.
a 1 o'clock is a great like meeting time. And I also would say like that 11 o'clock hour it's great meeting time, but making sure I have time for heads down, no meetings, like get stuff done, in that kind of 9 to 11, has worked really well for me recently.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
We are an hour and 26 in. We've covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Any reflections from today's episode? Or next
Come
steps?
to Richmond.
There you go.
Come to Richmond. But, I really think conversations around storytelling and sharing the cool things that are happening just need to happen, right? We need to figure out how to do that, fund that, resource that in all our communities, because the culture of entrepreneurship, innovation, business that happens in New York City and Boston and Silicon Valley and all these other places only happen because people tell stories of the things that are happening, in my opinion.
We only know it happened because people told stories, right? Like if we didn't know things were happening in Boston, not living in Boston.
That's right. That's right. So that's a big one, and we'll figure out more ways to do that and build models to do that and maybe collaborate on stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's like, what can you do that is low lift, high impact? Don't overcomplicate it. Just get people together, and see where it goes. Because it can have a lot of impact. Never underestimate a car ride, a drop in, a happy hour, an invite to a startup weekend. You never know where it goes. So
intro meeting, yeah, whatever, right? Just hanging out, coworking. I remembered what I wanted to say earlier. For this happy hour, we threw it out and it was like founders, funders, and friends. I like that one.
I like that a lot.
Steal it. Do it.
All right. Well, we're at the end of episode 2. Make sure to subscribe for notifications of future episodes. If you can, hit the bell icon on YouTube. That way you get notifications. We're also going to be sharing some shorts as we get those edited. So follow along on LinkedIn. That's really a great platform where we're going to be able to spotlight the work, because that's where a lot of those that others that are in ecosystem building are living. So make sure to follow us on LinkedIn. And if you see a clip that's valuable to you, share it. But also we'd love for your engagement. Ask questions, share what you're doing. If we share a clip on low impact or low effort events, share something you're doing. If you have a question for us, share that. If there's an event coming up, share that. We'd really love your engagement. And so follow on LinkedIn or subscribe on YouTube. And I will get those links here in the chat. Richard, close us out.
Thanks for joining us for Ecosystem Builder Show, live every Friday, 3 p.m. ish Eastern. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.